Tuition Mobile, quality e-learning experience on the go.
What is pollution? Pollution is the release or introduction of harmful substances into a region, a space, be it air, be it water, be it land, wherever it is. The introduction of harmful materials into this environment, that is what is called pollution. Now, pollution can be of three different types. We can have the atmospheric pollution, that's the air pollution. We can have the hydro pollution, that's the water pollution. And we can also have the land or soil pollution. Let's take it one after the other. Soil pollution. Soil pollution is when you have items such as refuse dumps, you have fire incidences, we have spillage of oils and other things like that affects the land and prevents crop from growing in the ground and makes the land barren, makes the land bad and unsuitable for the purposes for which it is to be used for. That's what soil pollution has to do with. Now, there are several things that could cause soil pollution. It could be due to weathering, that's an effect of water. It could be due to flooding. It could be also due to the deposition of harmful materials such as refuse, which also results in air pollution. Most of the time, these three pollutions are intertwined. Land pollution can also lead to different kinds of illnesses. It can cause illnesses. It creates an environment which are not hygienic, an environment which is not hygienic. It also exposes one to dangers of being harmed, of being injured. Of course, imagine a place where you have broken bottles all over the place. It is also a pollutant. You may be looking at it that it is not causing any nuisance, it may not be smelling, it may not be irritating, but the fact that it is not in the rightful place makes it a pollutant of that particular environment. Now, what can we do? How can we cut short all these pollutants? How can we minimize them? How can we eradicate them? There are several steps that could be taken. One of the steps is to introduce, assign specific places where pollution or pollutants, waste materials, will be taken care of. Our refuses should be collected and deposited properly in incinerators to be burnt, and we should have our sewages being channeled through appropriate quarters. Dead animals and things like that should be moved out of the environment as soon as they are noticed, and the environment should be kept clean. Sanitation at all times, cleaning of our environment from time to time. These are some of the ways in which we can caution soil pollution. Another way of cautioning soil pollution is by combating the possibilities of flooding. How can we combat the possibilities of flooding? In erection of proper drainage systems, and also making sure that our environments are always kept clean. When our environments are kept clean, there are no blockages in our drainage system, the chances of flood is highly reduced. Next we have is air pollution. Air pollution simply has to do with the pollution which affects the atmosphere. The atmosphere is a mixture of gases, as we've discussed earlier in previous classes. It's a mixture of gases: oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, that's carbon dioxide, noble gases, and a host of other substances. One of the components of air happens to be dust particles. Now, the purer the air is, the less the amount of dust contained in the air. When you walk around, you're breathing, you may not sense that there is dust in the air you are breathing in, but in the real sense of it, there is a certain level of dust. Now, there are certain levels that are acceptable for all this level of impurities. There are certain levels that are acceptable. Once it exceeds these levels, it becomes harmful, it becomes problematic onto the environment. Now, how can we combat, what are the major causes of air pollution? Our major cause of air pollution in this region of the world is the industries and automobiles. Industries and automobiles, exhaust from vehicles exhaust from generators, exhaust from whatever devices, different machines. Aside the exhausts that we do experience, we also have dust particles, raw materials being wasted, dust particles from construction sites. When people do construction, demolition of construction works, it also results in dust production, and this also can have harmful effects on people living around, even the people who are actually doing the work. Also, we also have some certain radioactive chemicals that actually release into the atmosphere. Another very important one to discuss is the the effect of hydrochlorofluorocarbons and fluorochlorocarbons. These harmful substances, when they are released into the atmosphere, they go to the ionospheres and interact with the ozone layer, thereby depleting the ozone layer. And today we are hearing about global warming this, global warming that. It is due to the reduction of the ozone layer shield, which protects us from the harmful radiations from the sun. These harmful radiations from the sun have the tendencies of giving us sunburns and other serious injuries. So, in order to cut down on all these tendencies that we are facing, also the global warming also is part of one of the reasons for many flooding events, many terrible natural disasters that occur in different countries, such as landslides, hurricanes, and flooding, sometimes tsunamis, most of the time. How can we control it? We can control it by making certain rules and regulations, enforcing laws about what should be allowed and what should not be allowed to be exposed into our atmosphere. What kind of gases should be released, what kind of gases should not be released. Such gases that should not be released includes old refrigerants that are being used in our refrigerators, our air conditioners, and stuff like that. These refrigerants contain chlorine, which actually is ozone loving. Unfortunately, one atom of chlorine can actually deplete a great extent of the ozone layer, because it attaches itself to the chlorine, to the ozone layer, and to the ozone molecule, and within a very short time it depletes, it separates also because of the ultraviolet radiation from the sun, and then it goes for another ozone molecule, and there depleting the ozone layer as far as it can go. Now, we can also minimize all these things by changing some of the materials that we use. In our aerosols, are most of the time our aerosols contain hydrocarbons and some other hydrochlorofluorocarbons. These hydrochlorofluorocarbons, which are preferred to hydrocarbons because of their lighter weight and abilities to evaporate at a faster rate, actually do deplete the ozone layers. All these things are having harmful effects and would affect the future generations. Also, the introduction of green technologies. Green technologies talk about the use of the minimizing or stoppage of the use of hydrocarbons as fuel. Thereby we run our houses without generators, we run our vehicles without using petrol or diesel or other kinds of fuels as such. This also helps us to minimize the amount of carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide being released into the atmosphere. Also, enlightenment of people living around about the dangers of air pollution can also go a long way. Air pollution also is not just about this hydrocarbons and hydrofluorocarbons. It also has to do with some small things that we also can actually monitor in our own individual homes. And water pollution. Water pollution is one of the most severe kind of pollutions that we do experience in this part of the world. When the water is polluted, one, it does a lot of harm. It depletes the level of employment. Fishermen don't have job to do. It depletes the food supply. It affects the life of the water. That's the marine life. That is depleting the fishes that can be harvested. It also has effect upon the land life, in the sense that water from polluted water, a poisoned water, cannot be used for planting it also makes the land bad when this water is being introduced to the soil. It poisons the soil and depletes the soil of its nutrients. Now, what are the causes of water pollution? Water pollution is mostly caused due to the disposal of industrial waste. Most industries prefer to dump their waste materials in the oceans, in the ocean beds, the fuel. It has no effect, but it has its effects on us, on the water, on us, the people who are even not living in the water region. And these effects, it goes a very long way. Aside industrial waste, agricultural waste, crude oil spills, talking about other components, introduction of some harmful chemicals such as nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, sulfur, and other components as such. These components go a long way and can actually cause a lot of damage to our environment. It could lead to acid rain and stuff like that. How can we control water pollution? Controlling water pollution, we could set up marine life control. People would actually be in charge, watching over and ensuring that whatever is happening, people do not deposit, they don't dispose of their waste in the water regions. We could also lay sanctions, serious sanctions and punishments, legal punishments, that people who actually dump their refuse into the waters will be sanctioned. Of course, as well, these sanctions should also be related to the industries, because they are the ones that do it most of the time. Biodegradable waste, of course, the use of biodegradable substances. If we introduce biodegradable substances, we will have less need to be worried about the effects of all these chemical substances on life.
Fusion Mobile, quality e-learning experience on the go.